This guy sued me for $12.5 million. I tracked this guy down to Newport News, Virginia. I had called a lady that done bail recovery in Virginia and said, look, I've got this guy I'm looking for. I think this is his address. I've done all this work. Could you please just go verify that this car is here and that this is his house? So she did. And she called me. She says, yeah. She goes, from what I've seen, it's pretty much like you said. He's living at home on a trust fund. He don't ever leave the house hardly. And, I can pick him up at any time. I said, okay. I said, I've got something to do. I'm going to call you tomorrow afternoon. So I got up, got some guys with me, and I went to High Point, North Carolina, and I was looking for another guy. Finally found the guy I was looking for. I put him in a van, and I called her up. I said, hey, can you go get the guy? She says, yeah. I said, okay, I'm in High Point, North Carolina. Meet me at the Virginia state line with him. She goes to get the guy. He won't answer the door. She kicks the door in. Of course, she had already called the police and let them know where she was. And she kicks the door in. The guy's butt naked laying on the couch, talking to his brother on the phone. His brother hears all the commotion going on, so his brother hangs up and calls 911. So they finally get this guy to get some clothes on and stuff and get him to where he's halfway in his right mind. And they give him, you can read some books. And he's got this bag of books. And by the time they walk outside, the police pull up. And like, what's going on? They told the police what was going on, showed them the paperwork. Police were like, okay, yeah, take him. Everything's up and up. So she meets me at the Virginia state line with him, and he wouldn't get out of her car. And you can tell he's just certifiably crazy. So he finally gets out of the car, and he just flops down on the pavement. And I said, dude, you've got to get up. We're putting you in the back of this minivan, I've got this other guy in here with me, and I've got three of us, and then I've got the guy I got from High Point. He won't stand up and walk. And we're just having to drag him. Well, he finally rolls over to the back of the van, and he's like, I've got to go to the pee really bad. And we're like, well, okay. So I thought at this point he's going to stand up and go to the bathroom. No, he just whips it out and lays there on his side and pees on the pavement. Still wouldn't get in the van. So we just have to pick him up and put him in the van. So we get going down the road with him in the van, and he's handcuffed and he's in the back, and he's leaning over the windows at cars coming by. And he's we got him cuffed in the front, trying to be nice to him. So he starts signaling them, call 911, telling the cars with his hands. And we're like, dude, stop. Just stop that. We're like, God dang, here we are in another state, we're like rolling through South Carolina or somewhere at this time. And
couple of guys handcuffed in my car.
Yeah, so it's like, you never know when people think, well, they've kidnapped somebody. Yeah. So we end up taking and handcuffing, I had leg irons on him as well. I handcuffed his handcuffs to the leg irons where his hands were down here, where he couldn't do it. So this guy starts breathing on the window, and he puts his nose up there and he writes 911 with his nose. And we're like, Jesus Christ, and this guy's like, he's like, I don't know who y'all are. Y'all have come and kidnapped me. I don't know who you are. I've never been to Georgia. And I'm like, well, right here's your picture, full picture. And right here's your warrant. Here's your signature. And he goes, that's not me. And so the other guy got in the back, he's just an old drunk, basically from a house. And I'm like, does this look like him? He goes, looks like him to me, boss. And I'm like, yeah, that's him, like we know it's him. And so we finally get him all the way back, and he's back there, he's jiggling his handcuffs, and he's like, I'm going to break out and stuff. And we're like, well, if he gets out, and the guy I'm doing the recovery for calls me, and he's like, what's going on? I'm like, well, we've got him. And he says he can break out of these handcuffs, and he's back here wiggling and jiggling. And I've made him a deal. If he can get out of at least one set of the three, then I'm going to let him go. And the guy's like, so he's in his mind, he's all excited. He thinks he's going to get out. So he's calmed down now because he knows if he can get out of one set, I'm going to take the rest off and let him go. But he never could get out.
Okay,
but he had found like some old stuff in the back of the van, like some screws or tools, and he was back there trying it. But he couldn't get out, so we get over to the jail with him. Again, he won't get out of the van. We get him out, he just on the ground. So normally we go through the front. We don't always go through the back. Certain jails want us to go through the back, certain through the front. So Charlie walks in there and tells them, says, hey, look, I've got one out here. He's combative. He's not going to walk. I've got enough men to drag him in here like a sack of potatoes if that's what you want. What do y'all want me to do? And they're like, bring him to the Sally Port. This particular jail don't normally want us to pull around with the Sally Port, so they did. So we started unloading weapons and stuff. The guy won't get back in the van, so we have to pick him up and throw him back in the van. So we pull around to the Sally Port, and when we pull in there and both the big doors close, another door opens, and like 6 deputies walk out with tasers, and the first guy I got from High Point steps out of the van, and they all draw down on him with tasers. He's like, whoa, whoa, whoa. They're like, well, yeah, we hear you're being combative. He goes, it ain't me, it's that crazy SOB in the van. He goes, whatever you do, just don't put me with him. And so finally they get him out, and he's not walking, and they hold him in, and they're having to hold him up and strip search him. And they told me they had to put him in a padded room for like 7 days before they could put him in gym pop to get him to calm down and get his meds straight and stuff. So that was the last I'd heard about it. Well, statute of limitations is like 2 years to sue somebody for something like that. So like 2 weeks before it's up, I'm like, get this phone call. I'm standing out in my backyard, and it's this process server. He's been trying to serve me.
Skip this video if you don't love your mother. Which place would you choose for your mother? Click the follow, like, and share buttons if you choose heaven. I give you 3 seconds to choose.
finally tracked me down. And I done had a couple of weird calls, so I kind of blew him off, you know. And he was serving me with a lawsuit from this guy. This guy sued me for $12.5 million. And so we had an attorney answer it from Georgia. You know, we were under the assumption if you're going to sue us and we're in Georgia, you got to come to Georgia and sue us. That's the way we assumed the law was, and we were told, but I don't know. But so we had an attorney from here draw something up and send it up there, and the judge up there told our attorney here, you know, that he was going to basically have him disbarred for trying to practice law in a state where he's not licensed. What? Like, you got to come here to sue us? Like, what the heck? So we ended up having to hire an attorney up there. And they get to talking to the guy, and he's like, well, you know, we've talked to him, you know, and he says instead of $12.5 million, if y'all all give $300,000 apiece, he'll settle.
So that was he's being so reasonable.
And
Okay.
we're like, no, we done nothing wrong. You don't get crap. He kept coming back, and he got it down to like $50,000 apiece, and then it was like $10,000 apiece. And finally, my buddy told the other attorney, we're riding up the road, we're on speakerphone. He says, look, I don't know if you understand the way we work. He says, we done nothing wrong. He's got all this crap name wrong. All this needs to be changed. And we're not admitting the crap, and we're not paying him anything. We've done nothing wrong. He was trying to say that we kidnapped him. We did not call the police. He did not know who we were. And we brought him back against his will. He had never been to Georgia. He was trying to say that I went into a state where I was not licensed and done a recovery and I wasn't a licensed Virginia recovery agent, which I had already checked the laws. The law stated that if you're from Virginia, you got to be a licensed Virginia recovery agent. But since I was from Georgia, I didn't have to be. I could go in there. But I went above and beyond and hired a licensed Virginia recovery agent. I didn't even go into the state. I had her meet me at the state line. Like, I'm always real careful covering my butt. So this went back and forth until finally we told him, look, you're not getting anything. And he had to rescind his lawsuit.